That's kind of funny to me that people that see UFOs are like, I'm telling you, man, I seen a UFO. But those men in black, they're not real.
Yeah, majestic. Oh, that bullshit.
I don't know how you believe in that shit, man.
It's craziness.
Let's get back to this UFO thing.
Anyways, like I was saying, last Tuesday, freaking aliens probed, yeah. Freaking ass cheek spread. Tossing me like a fucking salad.
Welcome to Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast where we talk about all things spooky. I'm Taylor.
I'm Nick.
And today we've got an episode on everybody's favorite 1997 Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones film, The Men in Black. Only the real life versions of those interesting government agents that come and clean up crime scenes after alien invasions happen and save the universe.
In some instances, yeah. They are like the cleanup crew, I suppose.
They are. They're referred to as the government cryptids. Which, like, I'd want that on a security badge. I want to be a government cryptid.
Certified government cryptid.
Yeah.
With like a badge number.
Yeah, with like a 401k
like
and
C258.
all them nice government benefits.
Oh, yeah.
But the real life story of the Men in Black is way different than what we like. When you think of the Men in Black, it conjures up images of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones saving the universe from giant bug aliens. At least that's what it does for me. But the real life encounters are much spookier. People claim that they're almost like cold-blooded killer assassin types. They just show up, no characteristics, very strange, very calm, collected, very spooky, awkward, odd, like they're not normal people.
Not human. Kind of stirs up the uncanny valley. You ever heard of that?
I have not.
It happens with robots and like AI, where it looks pretty human.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty human, but you can still tell that there's something off.
Yeah,
and because of that, it lets you know that that thing isn't human.
Right.
Which I've always thought that was interesting from like a biological standpoint, because we currently have, if evolution's like your thing, by theory of evolution, that still exists today because it was a trait that at one point in the distant past that allowed us to survive.
Correct.
So then it makes you wonder, okay, well then what the hell did we need that for thousands and thousands of years ago? Like where we needed that trait to survive.
I wonder what traits would be the most applicable to that.
There's like a theory that there was like some sub race of like humans or something like that we could tell that they weren't human. It's pretty wild and bizarre.
Oh, interesting.
We should, we could like do like an episode on that, like where that comes from. Like some distant like hominid, like way back when, like we fought or we were like at war or something with them like that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of distant way back when, the Men in Black story originates back in like the 1940s, I believe. 1947-ish is when they first kind of get some public notoriety. So the Men in Black was coined by the journalist John Keel, who we kind of talked about a little bit in the Mothman episode. He was the first one to go to Point Pleasant and get the firsthand accounts of people after the Mothman sightings. He was also one of the first ones to be visited by the Men in Black at the time. So that was back in the 60s. It goes back even a little bit further, back to 1947, where Harold Dahl, D-A-H-L, claimed a man in a dark suit warned him not to discuss his alleged UFO sightings on Maury Island. Dawes claimed that he's seen 6 donut-shaped UFOs above the lake. They dropped debris from the sky, injuring his son and killing his dog in the process.
So he's just out there on this boat with his son, and he looks up and he sees these 6 donut disc-shaped saucers. They just randomly are like, hey, that looks like a trash can.
just dump the waste.
And like no regards to this man.
Hey,
I paid a lot of good money for this, you son of a bitch. and just instantly just
dropped whatever they had on the ship, broke his son's arm, I think, and then the dog died.
That's the worst. That's the worst
tragic
thing.
That's the worst part. The dog died.
That right there is what has solidified this ongoing war with aliens.
That's why they don't come back.
Yeah.
They don't want somebody to go John Wick on their ass.
It's like, you realize who dog you just killed?
That was Harold Dahl, man. We can never go back.
Just shows like Harold, like, just pans to him like at his house, like with a sledgehammer, just beating his like driveway and like pulling out a duffel bag.
I thought you were gonna say he was like beating an alien, like the classic, like the grayskin alien, just with a hammer, just in his basement.
And pulls out a duffel bag and it's just MIB tech. It's like the little cricket gun from the movie.
Fast forwarding a little bit to the mid-1950s, UFOologist Albert K. Bender claimed that he was visited by men in dark suits who threatened and warned him to not continue investigating UFOs. He maintained that the men were secret government agents tasked with suppressing evidence of UFOs, and that's kind of where this story starts. Essentially, they were all experiencing the same thing of after they see a UFO or something paranormal, i.e. Mothman and or alien UFOs, government agencies a government agency would come and visit them dressed in black suits. The common thread amongst this is that they would try to essentially bully them into staying quiet with threats of violence or other acts towards themselves or their families if they spoke about the encounters they had. And what's interesting about the Men in Black encounters is that when they encounter them, I guess I should have worded that differently. But when the Men in Black would show up at their door, like we said a little bit earlier, they would almost seem non-human, very exotic facial features, very large eyes. They would be described as very abnormally tall, pale white skin or sometimes olive skin, not really seeming to know how things worked. I've seen an instance where somebody's described that they didn't know how to eat Jello. They thought they had to drink it or something like that.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Didn't know what a ballpoint pen was.
Yeah. I thought I one time,
it's like very mundane everyday objects. They don't know what they are.
Yeah. I thought I read somewhere one time where invited them in or for somehow this Men in Black agent shows up and they couldn't operate a toaster or something like that. They didn't know how to like work a toaster. And this is like back in like the 60s or whatever, when like that was a very common thing.
Right. But the like opposite side of that spectrum is that they themselves seem to have advanced technology. So it's kind of like in the movies where they would show up and like Agent K had that really cool car that could like drive on top of the tunnel, or the little guns that just blasted holes through shit.
Yeah, the freaking exploding like little tiny. Yeah.
And I just watched that movie again, not really necessarily in preparation of this episode, but just as like a refresher on what that movie.
Yeah.
I never noticed like when they call it the cricket, whenever he was about to shoot it, it would start to chirp like the cricket would or something. I thought it's like, I never noticed that as a kid, that right as soon as like before he shoots somebody, it makes a cricket noise and then he shoots it. I was like, that's kind of a cool touch. I never realized that before.
There's probably a lot of things in that film. I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
My biggest thing is still coming to grips that the main bad guy, the big cockroach, was Vincent D'Onofrio, aka Kingpin in the Daredevil series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kingpin, yeah. That whole movie arc is great. I haven't seen the newest one with Hemsworth.
Yeah, me either.
And the last one I saw was
I think the last one I'd seen was Men in Black 2.
Was 2.
I don't even think I've seen 3.
What was 3 about?
I think that was like Agent K and goes back in time and finds his young self or something. And it's
going with Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, remember that one.
But so it's almost like that's the cool side of the story of kind of making these experiences that people had in real life with the Men in Black seem like these are cool guys. That they're government agents. They have all the coolest technology. They know all the stuff. Their training regiments are super different. But reality is that they're extremely strange.
Yeah, it's almost completely contrast with how they're portrayed in the movies.
Yeah,
where in the movies it's a legit government agency where these people probably are like paid government workers, like on salary and stuff, and
maybe
I don't know, but yeah, they go through the training regimens. They're seen more like heroes and they're like competent.
Right, they're protecting us from alien invasions.
But whereas the reality of how they're portrayed is they're more kind of like a watchdog group.
They're like the mafia. They're like the mob.
Exactly. Yeah, like when shit goes south,
you better fucking keep quiet about this.
Keep your mouth shut, kind of thing. Yeah, we don't want this getting out. Very threatening, very ominous, and it's, from what I've read, it's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
So I always thought that the Men in Black stemmed from back in the 40s. There was it's in the UFO community. It's kind of, like everything else in the UFO community. There's kind of ambiguity around it.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Majestic 12, or MJ-12 for short. Is a purported organization that appeared in a fake document circulated by UFOologists in the 1980s, and that some UFO conspiracy theories still claim to have existed. The organization is claimed to be the code name of an alleged secret committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials formed in 1947 by an executive order by President Harry Truman to facilitate recovery and investigation of alien spacecraft. The Federal Bureau of Investigation declared the documents to be completely bogus, and many ufologists consider them to be an elaborate hoax. Majestic 12 remains a popular, among UFO conspiracy theorists, and the concept has appeared in popular culture, including like television and film. I always thought that MJ-12 was kind of like the origins of the Men in Black. Mm-hmm. It's like the shadow group agency. I think the X-Files like portrayed them, and like they're always in suits, like black suits or whatever, and like the little like. And I think there was a game that I played, Destroy All Humans.
Oh yeah, that's like your main villains, I think.
Well, like, and like that whole get up of like Grand Theft Auto or like Red Dead, where eventually like the cop, like it escalates. It's
like a wanted level.
It's like a wanted level kind of thing. Yeah. It basically I don't know if they were called Majestic in that one. They might have been called Majestic.
Man, it's been so long since I played that game. It's a great game. It's so good. Great game.
I downloaded it actually not too long ago. I was playing it.
Yeah. They remastered it too.
Yeah.
Fuck, I should play that.
But yeah, they're the ones that kind of show up, and I was like, oh, these guys are supposed to be like the Men in Black, essentially. Right. So I always thought that that's where they came. I didn't know that it was the Mothman Prophecies guy, Keel, that coined the term. I thought that was like around way before he showed up.
Yeah, apparently not. You said that it's kind of accepted throughout the ufologist community that the Men in, like the MJ-12 is an elaborate hoax. That's kind of funny to me that people that see UFOs are like, I'm telling you, man, I seen a UFO. But those Men in Black, they're not real.
Majestic. Oh, that bullshit.
I don't know how you believe in that shit, man.
It's craziness.
Let's get back to this UFO thing.
Anyways, like I was saying, last Tuesday, freaking aliens probed, yeah. Freaking ass cheek spread. Tossing me like a fucking salad.
So, kind of going back even further, folklorist Peter Rzewick compared the Men in Black accounts to tales of people encountering the devil and speculated that they could be considered a kind of psychological drama. For example, in the 1850 novel The Scarlet Letter, the black man is used as a euphemism for Satan, who is said to haunt the forest, and Washington Irving's story The Devil and Tom Walker includes the character of Satan, referred to as the Man in Black. In 1932, Lovecraft also used the figure of the Man in Black of his The Dreams in the Witch House as a synonym for Satan. So they're kind of speculating that the Men in Black is a coping mechanism for people with UFO sightings and stuff like that, as a way to kind of validate what they've seen. Being it this dark entity in black comes to make them a bargain that, hey, if you stay quiet about this, nothing's going to get out. You're going to be fine. But if you do talk about it, we'll be back. And there's going to be consequences.
And that's like, okay, I don't know how I feel about that correlation.
It's a stretch. It's very much a stretch.
It's because there are,
I guess the only underlying thing is that it's a Man in Black.
Really, like the only connection there is and if that were true, if based off of that, of the thousands and thousands of reported sightings that happen, every year, you would think then you would have more also reports of Men in Black.
You would think so.
But it seems like they're pretty sparse. We have stories of the encounters happening. We have, and of course, a lot of this stuff, it's word of mouth, anecdotal.
Right.
And then we saw the thing with the film of the two.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Of the two men. But That I agree with you. I think that's a stretch because it's, oh, okay, I saw something, and to validate what I saw, this is what shows up as a like a manifestation of that. Like,
I mean, people manifest things in different ways, like to cope with.
Your mind will show you some pretty bizarre shit to make sense of it. Like, your mind does do that. It will rationalize or try to rationalize what it sees, because that's what our brains do. We're like computers. We like to make sense of what we see, but we also like to do it with like the less brain power as possible.
Right.
So yeah, you see something like that, and then you see like a manifestation pop up to kind of validate, like, oh, okay, well, I must have saw something if this guy showed up, like put two and two together.
And that kind of coincides with reports that men in black will just appear at your door. There's no car. There's no, like, they just appear. They ring the doorbell. There's nothing there. I was listening to an encounter, I believe it was Dr. Hopkins, Herbert Hopkins, was studying a UFO case, and his family went out to a theater to see a movie or to see a show. He's working on this UFO report, and then he gets a phone call from somebody claiming to also be interested in the same sighting that he had, or same report that he was filing. He's claims to have said that normally he would reject somebody coming over to corroborate his story or to discuss it, but for whatever reason, he felt compelled to let this person come over. Within a couple minutes of the phone call, he had a knock on his door, and the person had arrived. The strange thing that he said was that he had a glass door and that you could see through. When the doorbell rang, he couldn't see anybody on his porch. He opens the door, the guy shows up on the porch. Didn't see a car, didn't see anything else. He just, like, out of the shadows almost, and just arrives at the doorstep. Yeah. So he lets the guy into his house, caught him by surprise to not see anybody through the door, yet after opening it, there approached a man in what was described as wearing a dark navy suit, dark gray gloves, and a bowler-style hat. He would later go on to say that he didn't even see a car, nor were there any phone booths nearby. Curiosity leading him forward, Hopkins invited the man inside, and they discussed the case. He said that the man simply sat and listened, only responding seldomly by saying, "Yes, that's how I understand it." So this guy comes in, he starts explaining the case to him, and the guy is not really asking any questions. He's just agreeing with him on how things were going. Over the course of this conversation, the attitude of this person changes, where it's less sitting and listening and more like, that's how it happened. This is how it's happening. You're going to be quiet about it. I know what's happened. We know what happened. You know what happened.
You think you know what happened.
Yeah, but you're going to stay quiet. He described the man as having olive skin, and upon further inspection after talking to him, the guy had bright red lips. He wiped his mouth, and on the back of his glove appeared a red mark. So Hopkins noticed that this was not actual lips, it was lipstick.
Yeah.
And now he's looking at this man with abnormally large eyes and no mouth. It's just a slit that was moving to speak words.
Yeah. It's like, it's just unsettling. Unsettling.
Yeah.
It's funny how you say they just like materialize out of nowhere, where it's almost like they could either be aliens themselves. I think if there is any sort of existence, they're more like interdimensional, like kind of observing from the shadows, like through the spaces in between spaces, like, and they kind of just show up whenever,
right? Which
would explain the weird, how they can kind of just be at your front door, and there's no car, there's no, you don't hear them,
they just appear.
I'd read about an instance where, he wasn't even like a Men in Black. He had shown up claiming to be a government official, or claimed to be like an electrician or something like that, a repairman. And this was after the individual at home had like a UFO encounter. So then randomly, this maintenance man just shows up at their house, and they don't think anything of it. They're like, oh yeah, the maintenance man or whatever, it's like an apartment complex or something. They walk down to the basement. They see the guy walk down to the basement, and after 3 hours, like, he's still down there, and they like
Hey, you okay down there?
So they open the door and they look down in the basement, and the guy's just staring up ominously at the bottom.
Don't like that.
Just at the steps, just staring.
That would be so creepy.
That would be terrifying. But then they go to check back on him later, and he's gone. And he didn't walk. And they're sitting upstairs. Nobody walked back up the steps. Like he didn't. Yeah, just.
I don't like that. That'd be so weird. That's why I don't let people in my house.
But I don't trust it because I think I saw a story reading on like Reddit or something. So it's kind of anecdotal.
It sounds like a creepypasta.
It's anecdotal, and that seems to be the common theme. With it's really hard to corroborate a lot of the stories for like the Men in Black. Yeah.
We're going back to Hopkins' story here a little bit. He describes the man, and maybe this is the most sickest burn of all time of any human I've ever heard, or non-human. His eyes were not remarkable. Fucking got him.
That's your fucking unremarkable ass eyes.
Your fucking ass, boy.
Bitch.
Your unremarkable eyes.
You ain't got no features. You ain't got no nothing.
He said that they were dark colored, though appearing to possess pupils like any other man. At one point during the conversation, the visitor told Hopkins, whose hand was in his pocket, that there were 2 coins in it. Hopkins, having only paid the local newsboy for a paper earlier that day, was able to confirm that 2 coins were in the pocket. After which the strange man asked that he remove one of the coins, which Hopkins did. Now holding one of the coins in his hand, Hopkins watched with curiosity as the coin began to take on an odd, fuzzy-like appearance. Then, within seconds, it had vanished. The visitor reportedly then said, "Neither you nor anyone else on this plane will ever see that coin again." That was a neat trick, Hopkins told the stranger, who then asked him a puzzling question. He wanted to know whether Hopkins knew how Barney Hill, a purported alien abductee, who along with his wife Betty claimed to have been taken aboard a UFO in 1961, had died. Hopkins said that he believed it had been a heart attack, to which the mysterious stranger said that to the contrary, Barney Hill died because he did not have a heart, just as you no longer have a coin. He then told me, or rather I should say he stated, that I had tape recordings on the Steffens case, Hopkins recalled, on the hypnosis and on the details and so forth. He didn't ask me, he didn't tell me, he just said it, Hopkins said, upon admitting that he did indeed possess tape recordings from the hypnosis sessions. So I'm thinking Hopkins worked with a group of people that claimed to have been abducted.
Probably abductees, yeah. If he was a doctor, he was probably recording them to get like their alien abduction stories, yeah.
Hopkins said the visitor then told him that he would destroy the tapes and any other documentations related to the case. As the visitor gave him these instructions, Hopkins said he was not the least bit indignant and not the least bit angry. He just said to do it. This conversation goes on for quite a while, and it's mostly just this guy being very straightforward about telling Hopkins what he's going to do, not asking him to do any of it.
Where do you stand on that? Do you think that if he gives more details like that, that it gives more to the credibility? Like if he can be more
sounds
specific?
like this is very, this is a, like you can find this, if you look up They Met the Man in Black, Hopkins' whole story is pretty much on this journalnews.com. Over the course of their discussion, Hopkins had felt that there was something not quite right about the man sitting before him, describing the visitor's orders as having been put in an inhuman machine way. Following suit with the individual's robotic demeanor during the strange interview, as the conversation concluded, Hopkins said that the man's speech began to slow and that the spaces between words began to increase as the visitor stood up slowly and announced, "My energy is running low. Must go now. Goodbye." And with that, the man left. He watched the man cling to the railing, cautiously moving 1 foot at a time down the steps before him. Then, instead of proceeding across the walkway as he had done when he arrived, the visitor walked off in the direction of the corner of the building in a completely different direction, stopping to hold on to the corner of the building momentarily. And then he disappeared around the corner. That's a strange conversation.
Apparently, he ended up following through with the instructions that he left. So he ended up burning like the tapes and destroying the evidence as he was instructed to do so. It definitely sounds like his account is probably the most detailed account of an MIB encounter.
Yeah. I want to say that John Keel had a similar report when he was the first one to kind of start reporting on the Mothman stuff.
Yeah.
And the Men in Black came to him and Alva, I believe, was his wife.
Yeah.
Because they worked on it, or not his wife. The news reporter from Point Pleasant. I forget her name at the moment.
Okay.
But they were both receiving visits from the Men in Black after Mothman's supposed sighting.
Yeah.
And they both had pretty detailed accounts on what the Men in Black were doing.
Yeah.
Like the questions they were asking them. And it seemed to be pretty much in line with the way this was, where it wasn't really asking questions so much as listening and then telling them that that's what they saw and not to tell anybody else about it.
Yeah.
So pretty strange stuff, pretty eerie. Some people believe that the Men in Black could also, this is kind of one of those far-fetched conspiracy theories, that they could be cyborgs. Like they're just robots that show up and they're sent by aliens to hush up Earthlings about alien evidence.
Which would kind of corroborates in line with the Hopkins encounter.
A little bit, yeah.
But must energy low, must go, kind of shutting down.
Right.
I've seen things where they're aliens themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're a very secretive, like kind of genetically altered, like people, and that's why they're so awkward. They appear
with
human,
their exotic features and such.
Yeah. Interdimensional beings,
like travelers.
They kind of like hop in. There was a movie that I've seen semi recently, and it was on Netflix. I forget the name of it, but the premise was it was about a kid who was like a hacker. Mm-hmm. And he was like on house arrest because he's this like genius kid, and he hacked like a government top secret facility or something, and instead of throwing him in jail, it was one of those situations like, you're going to work for us now, basically.
Right.
And his government agent person shows up, and they're like, okay, we have this really complex puzzle, we need you to solve it. And the movie's basically like him going crazy trying to figure out what this puzzle is to solve it. But he starts having these bizarre dreams where he's being visited by two men in suits that are very awkward, but essentially they're Men in Black is what it was.
Right.
But they weren't like aliens. They were like interdimensional, kind of hopping in and out.
Okay.
And like he has like a dream or something, and that's how he's like talking to the one. Mm-hmm. But really bizarre features. They were really awkward. There was one point in the movie where he's trying to like figure out what's real and what's not real. And this Men in Black guy is like just shrinking and like enlarging, like huge, walking out like a giant through the streets and stuff like that. And
interesting.
Yeah, I forget. It's a semi-newish movie within like the last 2 or 3 years.
Interesting. Gotcha. Well, speaking of movies, an encounter with the Men in Black comes from a movie star, Dan Aykroyd. Our good old friend Elwood Blues claims to have ran into the Men in Black while filming a TV series called Dan Aykroyd's Out There. So he takes a phone call. The story pretty much goes that he takes a phone call from Britney Spears, who wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. He's talking to Britney. I mean, it's just...
Are you serious? That's crazy.
Yeah, he was talking to Britney Spears about being on Saturday Night Live. He's outside of his, I guess, apartment or something of where he was living in at the time. Sees a black sedan sitting across the street. This was in 2002. He sees two men standing outside staring at him with blank faces. He then says that one of the men gave him a dirty look, and he looked away for a brief moment, and the men and the car they were driving were both gone completely. 2 hours later, he got a call saying that the show that he was filming, this TV show that deals with UFOs and crop circles and all that stuff, was just canceled just like that. No explanation other than it's just done.
I would believe it if it weren't for the fact that Britney Spears is like involved in the story. That's like some crazy like
you're sitting 2002, Britney Spears was super popular. Of course, they would want her on Saturday Night.
Yeah, but like you're sitting on a diner. That's like the kind of story where you're sitting in like a diner, like a Waffle House, and this guy just like rolls up with you, and he just reeks of like cigarettes, and he's like clearly like tripping out on crack, and he looks over to you and he's like, "Hey man, do you know Dan Aykroyd? I got a story for you."
I'm Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, basically.
I was on a phone call with Britney Spears, man.
Yeah, that's like it's just like, that is some conspiracy. That's up there with the Majestic 12 shit.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I think Dan Aykroyd is a viable source of information. He was a Man in Black himself.
He was.
When he was a Blues Brother.
He was.
That's what they addressed. I think he was in Men in Black too. I think he was in one of the movies. But anyways, I digress. So he's a like noted like UFO enthusiast because he's apparently had multiple encounters with UFOs. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I feel inclined to, if somebody's claims to have seen a UFO 4 times, and he's a celebrity. Celebrities are not normally that outspoken about things that they see paranormal wise, in fear of losing their careers over it. So if he's willing to go on record and say that he's seen these things, that lends to a little bit of credit, at least.
Yeah, like I'm not afraid to be judged. Like I know what I saw, kind of thing.
Right.
Like if you
believe
think I'm crazy, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I'm not taking away from the the credibility. I'm not saying that other stories that he has, talked about are, like didn't happen. It's just that one to me is like a little bizarre, but who knows?
Yeah. And I guess one of the most recent reportings of the Men in Black comes from, it was 2008. There was a man staying in a hotel and seeing some UFO activity. These two quote unquote Men in Black come into the hotel, apparently making the staff feel very unsafe, very insecure, saying that they were asking for this guy. He wasn't at the hotel at the time. And when they reviewed the tape, you see these two guys walk in their black suits and their fedoras and sunglasses and all that stuff. They were described as having like blank expressions and almost no facial features and abnormally tall.
Yeah.
And when you see them in this video, I mean, of course, depth of perception is skewed almost.
Yeah, for sure.
But they do look like they're about 8 feet tall walking through the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I guess that's kind of the first. Well, I'm sure it's maybe not the first, but height never really seems to be a talked about thing.
Yeah.
Like a reportable feature with Men in Black.
The notable features about the Men in Black are that there are no features.
Yeah, or they're very very bizarre, very ambiguous, very very hard to tell. And there's like a lack of.
And you
features.
would think that they would want to be as unnoticeable as possible. You'd think that they wouldn't want to be big giant people that draw attention to themselves.
Well, just even the fact that their
you
behavior.
see a 7-foot dude out in public, you're like, oh my god, that's a big dude.
Yeah, and even like their mannerisms and the way they behave is just bizarre. Right. Like they're doing everything in their power. If you don't want to get caught, you're failing.
Right. Yeah,
you're doing everything.
Which leads to the debate about whether the Men in Black are real and stuff or not. If they were real and they were doing these things, they're very bad at their jobs. Because we know so much about UFOs and cryptids. It's like if you're trying to suppress the truth, buddy, they got to cut your funding because this ain't working. This ain't working for you.
It's like, you got to go, man. Like, this is what my tax, I'm paying you my tax dollars to suppress the truth. Well, yeah.
Well, I'm not buying.
However, I do believe in the realm of UFOs 100% that there are instances though where government officials actually do show up.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe they're not Men in Black, maybe they're dressed in suits, but I do believe that.
I think the most possible outcome for that, or most possible scenario for that, I've seen that the Men in Black could be a subdivision of the United States Air Force, where if you have a UFO sighting, they're there to inspect to find out what it was, aviation wise, what crashed. Of course, they could show up in suits, in black cars and black sedans. That's what government agencies do. They show up in
unmarked cars,
and they're like, think of the Secret Service or the president's detail. They're all in black Escalades and black this and that, and they're in fancy tailored suits.
Yeah,
that's just what they do. That's how you know that they're people of importance, I guess.
Yeah, and I even if they're not Men in Black for sure, there's been so many reports of people being contacted by agencies or whatever, or shadow governments, whatever it may be, people showing up and it's like, hey, and sometimes they're not, and it's on both ends of the spectrum. Sometimes their encounters are like pretty hostile from these government officials where they're like threatening, like, you're not going to talk about what you said.
Yeah, like I said, it's like the mob.
Yeah, and then there's other times where it's kind of like, hey, we know that you saw something. We're kind of here to help you make a little bit of sense of that.
Right.
But we prefer if you don't talk about it. Yeah,
just look into this light for me. Just look right here.
You're pretty much, basically. So, yeah.
There was only one instance, speaking of the little mind eraser things, there was only one instance of somebody having that kind of a experience. One woman claimed that the Men in Black took part of her memory, I guess mind erased her a little bit or something. I don't know. It doesn't really give specifics, but yeah, there was one woman who claimed that the Men in Black took part of her memory. So I don't know what that entails, how it worked. Maybe they hypnotized her. Maybe they have a little neuron eraser thing. But what about pop culture outside of the Men in Black movies? Anything juicy on that end?
Like I said, the only thing that I really saw a reference to was, it's kind of like the Majestic 12. The honestly, just the Men in Black films. The 1997 film. It was Sony's highest grossing movie when it came out in 97, and up until Spider. Yeah, I never knew that until Spider-Man replaced it.
That movie still is great, though. I still enjoy that movie very much.
Spider-Man or
both of them? Both of them.
Oh, it was so good.
I remember I think it was Men in Black 2 when they were on the promotion train for that. Burger King had the little Men in Black toys,
yeah,
like the little bobbleheads and shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Destroy all humans. There's the Majestic 12.
Yeah.
It's a wanted list. It's once you cause enough mayhem, they kind of show up in their black Cadillacs and their black suits, and they have the laser beams and stuff like that, little laser pistols that are trying to. They're really annoying.
I have like kind of a strange one that I'm gonna bring up. I'm going to bring one up. This might be, it's not traditional Men in Black stuff, but you were talking about them kind of being able to go through the right realms and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're described as showing up in black suits and stuff, but they're sometimes described as showing up in black Kevlar vests and SWAT gear.
Yeah.
What about like in Marvel, the like Loki series, the TVA?
Yeah.
Those guys remind me of like Men in Black dudes because they can go through to any point in time and stop things from happening to trim the timelines or prune the timelines.
Yeah. That's basically.
I wonder how close to Men in Black adjacent they tried to get with that.
Maybe
if that was even in their thought process.
Possibly. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's it seems pretty straightforward, but I think the Men in Black series is kind of the iconic pop culture. Of it
definitely brought it to the mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. And
I can't imagine that if the Men in Black are real, I couldn't imagine they want this movie to get out because then people would start looking into them.
That's the kind of movie that they would want to get out because it's not even completely.
It's not even accurate.
Not even accurate at all.
But then again, they are described as not having any basic knowledge of any mundane things. They probably don't even know how to turn on a TV. So they've probably never seen the movie. Probably don't even know what it is.
It's kind of like the basis of a lot of conspiracy theories and things like that where, okay, on this hand, this is what we're allowing you to see. This is what we want you to believe. True. Yeah.
That's kind of propaganda is the kind you could control.
Exactly. Yeah.
Government got involved with the studio and it's like, yeah, you can't put any of this real stuff in here. So let's make this a fun action romp.
Yeah.
Get the hottest movie star on the planet, Will Smith.
Yeah, he was like the 90s.
Yeah, he was like the up and coming dude. Like, I wonder if that was his first. I mean, of course, I know Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was his first like major thing, but Men in Black was right around that same time.
When did Bad Boys come out?
Ooh, that's a good point.
I think that was like
90.
That was like I think 96, 95, something like that.
You think so? You think it was that early?
Bad Boys?
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in theaters. I don't remember what that movie was even about. I just remember seeing like bits and pieces of it because I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, 1995.
Yeah.
And then Bad Boys 2 was 2003.
Yeah.
Damn. So I guess that would have been Will Smith's first major movie.
Yeah, I would have been, 3 years old. And
that's crazy.
I remember that. It was the movie theater in Frederick. I remember that. Yeah,
I definitely remember Men in Black way more. Like that whole marketing train.
Yeah.
Being way more than Bad Boy. But of course, I was the target audience for Men in Black, I guess. Watching that movie back, it's more adult themed than I remembered it, but
oh yeah, wasn't there like some sexualized things in that one? Like
yeah, a little bit. But I mean there was some
in the second one too.
There's some gratuitous violence in that movie. I mean,
yeah. That farmer, he just like skins the farmer and unskins him or whatever. Yeah.
And then the lady gives birth to a squid in the backseat of the car.
Yeah. And I think in the second one they had some Victoria's Secret model was like the villain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And she's like
Michael Jackson was in it.
Was he really?
Remember? Yeah, he was in it because he was like an honorary Men in Black or something, and they had him up on the video screen. He was Agent M.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. I completely forgot about that.
But like now that I think about it, Michael Jackson, like when he was like in that era of his life, probably was as close to a real life Men in Black, characteristically speaking, looking person.
Awkward.
Than anybody.
Yeah.
Awkward, very
he's the inspiration.
Quote unquote exotic.
He's the inspiration.
Facial features.
He's the inspiration. Yeah. He's a guy showed up at my door, had long black hair, really white pale skin. No nose.
Just writing it all down.
Yeah. No nose. He kept saying, hey, every like 5 seconds, saying that was like how he communicates. his alien language. Then he pulled out this global an Emmy. Apparently he's in movies. I didn't know about that. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Just gonna put this away, sir. I think you're describing Michael Jackson.
No, it's Agent M. That's what his name was. Yeah, I completely forgot about that scene.
Maybe Michael Jackson didn't die. Maybe he just joined the MIB for real.
Yeah. And
now he's just investigating alien cases. Good for him. If he's
sad to think about it, though. That was kind of his decline. That was right before his...
Yeah, 03, 02, or 02 and 03, when Men in Black 2 came out. I think that's when Men in Black 2 came out.
That was right before his decline, because then all the allegation stuff started coming out afterwards, and then he kind of receded back into the Neverland, whatever the fuck it was called. Public view, up until his death.
Yikes. But anyways, what are your thoughts on the Men in Black?
I think it's bogus.
Really?
I think I think that there are definitely encounters of government officials showing up when there's UFO sightings. I'm sure that the government has tried to hush people. You could just who's the one gentleman Bob Lazar, the scientist in the 80s who apparently worked at Area 51, and the more recent congressional hearings or whatever, them talking about there's groups of people out there that we've seen things, and they were approached, and there's trying to hush them up. So, but as far as interdimensional, awkward, maybe there are some situations, because honestly, I kind of feel certain people for that position, I wouldn't be surprised if they've hired some super awkward, maybe on the spectrum kind of people, to take those positions.
Sheldon Cooper, from The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, Sheldon Cooper, exactly. Just awkward, because a person like that, they're very logical.
Yeah, no personal attachments.
There's they can kind of take the emotion out of it. They're not psychopaths, but they're a little bit. I mean, there's some emotional bluntness there, but
they don't understand social cues. They don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand
things like that. Yeah. So it's kind of so I wouldn't be surprised. But as far as I'm not buying it.
As far as strange men distributing swords in ponds,
nah, I'm not all for that. Not about that jazz.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you there. I definitely think there's a government agency that monitors UFO sightings and monitors alien spacecrafts, and I'm sure I would assume they're probably closer to what the movie describes them as being.
Yeah.
Than
kind of like a cleanup crew.
Kind of like a cleanup crew. They're not fighting aliens and stuff like that, but they show up to the sites and they're okay, what happened here?
Risk management from a public perception standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, they show up before the press and stuff gets involved, there. Yeah. Okay, what happened here? Let's get the accounts of the people, see what they know, see what they remember, try to guide them in the right direction of the correct outlets to express their stories, or to try to be hey, maybe what you seen wasn't what you think it was, kind of thing. But I think definitely there could be a government agency called the Men in Black unofficially that just show up and help kind of crowd control a little bit. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think they're extraterrestrials disguised as humans showing up to keep you from learning about the truth.
No.
Because the truth is out there, man. You just got to find it. And we are going to find it right here on Shadows and Sightings, your one-stop shop for everything spooky and paranormal. Anything else you got on this one, Nick? Anything else you want to say to the good people out there listening to our show?
No, thanks for tuning in. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. Looking to continue to hit this year strong with some new content,
We're trying to talk about some things that are maybe a little like today's episode. Men in Black's not one you hear too many people talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
To try to find some rough or some deep cuts.
Yeah.
Some uncut gems, as it were.
So, but no, thankful for all our listeners. Continue to tune in. We appreciate it. We see that the channel's growing. It's getting there. It's growing bit by bit.
Yeah.
So someone's listening, and we appreciate you.
As long as we got one listener out there, we'll keep cranking them out. Nope. But make sure you follow us on our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast, and Shadows and Sightings pod. Send us an email, shadowsandsightings@gmail.com, and just keep an eye out on our platforms for new episodes and other happenings with us. We're going to try to get around to a couple of paranormal conventions and stuff this year. So if you have any leads on those, let us know. We'd like to go and network, get some like-minded people talking about the paranormal in a unique and scientific way, but also in kind of a goofy and stupid way sometimes too. But like Nick said, we appreciate all the listeners out there keeping us going. So until next time, we'll see you then when we talk about all things spooky.
I couldn't even imagine what is it like for some of these people who are tasked with like cleaning up crime scenes.
Ooh, that would be disgusting.
I bet you there's some wild stories on
Which
Reddit.
would you rather have, to clean up a crime scene or clean up porta pots?
Oof, that's tough.
Like a porta pot by the beach, where it's just hot, stinky ass. Sun beating down on that thing all day.
Just bacon.
It's like a hot pocket full of shit.
You just see the heat waves coming
You see the stink vapors.
Oh my God.
Or like a quadruple double murder homicide where they just went absolutely ham on each other. Like every day.
I think I'll take my chances with the homicide.
Brain matter, blood, cum, piss, shit. Because imagine you have a crime scene where a guy is like jerking it, gets to fulfillment, and then another guy walks over and is like, "You can't do this here," and he shoots him. And then he pisses on his body. And another guy walks by, he's like, "We can't kill that man." And he kills him too.
Just like a chain reaction of like killing the witnesses.
It's just defecation because like when you die, you void your bowels. So it's just constant.
Oh my God. This is tough. I don't know. But then
it all starts because a dude's jorking it in the alleyway.
I don't know. I mean, that's like... And then that's when the Men in Black show up. It's like you can't report any of this. You can't report any.
I'm never going to speak of this again in my life. You have my word.
You don't have to threaten me, sir. The experience is threatening enough. I'm okay. I don't know, dude. I think I would take my chances with the crime scene.
Yeah. I think
because the amount of pay is probably a lot better for a crime scene.
I would assume that porta potty cleanup crews
take all the emotions out of it and just look at like the logistics
a pure
of it.
Business standpoint.
Yeah, like, the most I'm making cleaning up porta potties, like $15 to $20 an hour,
maybe. Yeah,
if you're lucky. Whereas a crime scene like tech, there's probably some schooling involved. $45,
$50 an hour,
easily $45 to $50.
And you can work your way up. Like you can become like a forensics lab assistant to a forensic scientist and then you're making $500,000 a year. Yep. Porta potty, you can just like own more porta potties. And then what? And you got more to clean.
And you don't want to be like the porta potty king.
You don't want to be like John of Porter Johns.
You know, I built my entire empire on people taking shits 24/7, 7 days a week.
I bet they find some weird stuff in porta potties.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Hands down. Needles. Condoms,
that's a given. That's a given.
Condoms.
But I'm thinking like bones. Do you think like people would put bones and stuff in there?
Maybe somebody's like eating their
like
lunch.
You stuff a dead body into a porta pot.
I would not.
And then you own the porta pots and you're the homicide victim's case. You become the homicide cleanup guy, thinking you got away from the porta pots. Then there's a homicide in the porta pot. You're cleaning up everything.
That's what they do. The cleanup tech, they pick up that's how they clean it up. They just pick it up and find porta potties and leave them in there.
Holy shit.
It's the perfect crime.
It's the perfect storm.
It's the perfect, it's the perfect crime. That makes it even worse.
Oof.
Please send the Men in Black to erase my memory after that.
Yes. Hopefully they have one of those mind eraser thingies.